Torah Or Miketz, page Lamed Aleph, second column, 6 lines on the top of the page. Okay, the last thing that the Rebbe was explaining is Yayin HaMesamach and Yayin HaMeshakir. But Yayin HaMesamach, not everybody merits, because it means you get this total simcha of simcha shel mitzvah. You only simchas from the kedusha, not from worldly things. So he says, what happens if you're stuck and you don't have that yayin HaMesamach? So you have to go to get drunk. What does getting drunk mean? Yayin HaMeshakir. So he says, what yayin HaMeshakir means, you get, so to speak, you get drunk. You go out of your present level. You said that's the whole level of now dinur, right? Like you're speaking the Daud Mises Bezdin, now dinur, in order to go to Gan Eden, you have to forget everything from this world, because if you're connected to this world, you can't go to Gan Eden. So now dinur, you table over there in the spiritual mikveh, you forget everything. From aliyah to aliyah, from level to level in Gan Eden, you also need now dinur. Then he says, what happens down here? He says, what's the now dinur? It says the level of bittul, right? To come from mitzvah to mitzvah, that the matter, he says, there becomes in the sweat of the chayis HaKodesh and all that. Okay. This is what a person should realize. That the descent, how low the person fell, how the neshama fell down so low into this world. And his heart will tremble tremendously. And he'll scream out Hashem when it's problematic, like it says, So'am libem al Hashem. Until he goes out of his mind, so to speak. Like it said before, this level of shikur, you get so embittered and so upset, you're like drunk. What does it mean? You go out of your daite. Daiti is what you're really into during the year, during the day. Gashmi is taivus, all that. With the bitterness of the nefesh. That will get rid of the koyach that remembers all these gashmistic things. In other words, he says, to the level of bittul, because that's now dinur, is a mikveh. The concept of a mikveh is a level of bittul. Right? They said yesterday, tefillah is bittul. So what's now dinur? You have to get rid of your first level to come to a second level. Similar to what Chassidus being done by Rabbi, that he fasted 40 fasts, 100 fasts, you should forget Talmud Bavli, because from one level to a higher level, the lower level gets in the way. Because any lower level is limited in that lower level, what it is. Right? So that level contradicts a higher level. So in order to come to a higher level, which is completely different type of a level, then you need to forget the first level. So he said, if you want to get closer to Hashem, you have to forget everything about this world. That's the second level of wine that makes you drunk. Then he's able to daven and say, Baruch Atah l'nechem yom kadaliba. Ki inyan ha-meridus hu alo avad. Meridus is not for the future. Meridus means, depressing is a very bad word. That's atzvos. Meridus actually means embitterment with a stepping stone to reach a higher level. Atzvos, depression, is something that only gets you down. Meridus is embitterment, meaning you realize how low the neshama fell, how low, it's on the floor behind you, how low the neshama fell, and yet I can make an immediate turnaround and be reconnected. However, Kiman Nafshel has the point of his body, because he's upset about the lack of godliness. Like Mary Bassad Ameribechem and Zakeh said to Talmidim, Halvai Shir Shemayim Aleichem. Lochein, Yosef al Havai, when we return to Hashem, Gili Elokusi is Baruch Mi Kadaliba. When he'll come back to turn back to Elokus, Baruch Atah, and then all the tefillos are bakoshes, and mesudarim al derech all the tefillos are bakoshes. A way of, first of all, it's interesting, all the brachas are plural. We don't say chaneni me'itcha chachmi, we say chanenu, hachzereinu, we don't say ni, hachzereini b'shuva shlema, right? Why? Because the whole concept of davening is a level that it's not about me, it's about us. That's, he said, the bittul of a nar dinur, V'chein kabos malchus shemayim b'krishim be'emes. And the same thing when you accept the yoke of Hashem for real. The yoke of Hashem means nothing else exists but Hashem. In other words, like we said, not Eined Movadi, Eined Movadei. Ki be'emes v'tzein v'chefzin l'davke bay, his real will is to cling to Hashem. Umar nafshi is in bitter al vichuka me'er pnei melech how far he is away from Hashem. And he says, Af ki be'emes adainu rochik, even though he's still far. But mikama keiman kol zeh yesh b'chinas avdolah. Mihu harochik. There's still a separation, meaning like this. A person wakes up, he says, okay, I'm so far away from Hashem. So really, they're still far away from Hashem. But in reality, that turning itself is the closeness to Hashem. The Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, when the Gemara says, Zedainis Nasale Kazachis, the Averis become mitzvahs. So the Alter Rebbe says, how can you say an Averi becomes a mitzvah? With tshuva me'ava, not stam tshuva. The lofty level of tshuva, that Averis become mitzvahs, yeah? How can an Averi become a mitzvah? So the answer is, the Alter Rebbe explains, mitzvah means connection. Why does a person do tshuva? Because he feels far from Hashem. So malacha nafshi. My soul is thirsty, kam malacha besari. So the distance itself is what's bringing you closer. In other words, why are you becoming close? When you're doing tshuva, the aveda, the distance that you cause by sinning, that itself is bringing you closer to Hashem. So are you still a sinner? You didn't become a tzaddik yet, but you're doing tshuva. So he says that, even though you're still far, but that richuk is really kiruv. It's bringing you to become close. But even this wine you need to squeeze first. Remember, the Alter Rebbe was explaining the whole thing of yayin in Aveda, the Sar Mashkim in Kedusha, and the Pari in Kedusha. So he says you have to torture the grape, right? It has to be bittul. You have to squeeze it. And then you get the wine. He says, Lo Sumatrik Shiraim, to make himself like remnants, like nothing. When he delves into his mind, so then you'll be taka. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining this whole dream of parting with the butler and the baker and that thing. So he explains there's a yayin mesamach, which is a gift from above. That yayin mesamach also needs to squeeze the wine. Wine needs to be squeezed. Okay, it needs to have bitter. But that yayin mesamach, not everybody can get. So that you have to be a lofty level. So what happens if you don't have yayin mesamach? You have to go to the second extreme of wine, yayin meshaker. And he says that everybody's shaykh to do. Because it's not a gift from above like yayin mesamach, like the wine that makes you happy. Yayin meshaker, you get drunk. That's the Aveda, like you said before, of leaving your present level. Now how to ignore the whole thing with the mikveh, getting out of your present level, and then you become closer to Hashem. But that also needs to be squeezed. That's the need, but even yayin meshaker, the only way you can get wine to get drunk is when you squeeze it. Also bittul.
Secular information builds on information.
No.
Meaning that even that's how things are invented. They see somebody else in some other country.
Okay, so what's that have to do with the?
How can you forget Yerushalmi? Yerushalmi, 1 Kings 18, 1 Kings 18, 1 Kings 18. 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 1 Kings 18, to come closer to Hashem? How could you?
Because if things are on the same level, just a little higher and lower, then lower helps the higher level. I gave a simple mashal. Seriously, until recent years, I never understood. How do you forget Bali to learn Yerushalmi? I mean, come on, learning is learning. It's computers. Why does old geezers, us old guys, not know computers and kids pick it up in a second? 2 seconds. And the younger they are, the quicker they get it. Why is it? Because our minds are trained in a certain way of thinking. It's nothing to do with smarter, stupider, it's nothing to do with that. Our minds, from the time we were born, are trained to think in a certain way. This is a completely different way of thinking, which our way of thinking gets in the way of that way of thinking, because it's a different way of thinking. Right? Little kids that are not programmed yet, so it's their level of thinking. Just like we got our thinking, they're getting their thinking. That is very clear. It's a completely different style of learning. It contradicts, one contradicts the next.
If I could wipe out all of my understandings, I still cannot get to their level. Meaning
Yeah, we're talking about Rab Zayda wasn't me and you, thank God. I mean,
if you know Yerushalmi, it's going to help you come to understand.
not the way he learned it. His way of learning. Today people learn Bavli and Yerushalmi. But Rab Zayda, the Amira, the great Amira that he was, is a different style of learning.
Understand? How can you forget it?
He fasted 40 or 100 fasted that Hashem should make him forget. Obviously he was successful.
Torah